Hello and welcome to my hobby table once again for yet another bearing removal and installation featuring Boca bearings. Today's engine I will be removing and replacing the bearings on an OS FS-120 Surpass E version. This is the very first 120 Surpass that OS put out. So this is an engine I just recently ran, so the bearing removal and installation should go very simply here. Let's go to the table and see how easy it really is. Okay, so here on the table I have everything I should need to do the removal portion of this task. I've got the OS FS-120 Surpass E crankshaft, crankcase, bearings here. I've got a small wood block to help me drive the main crankshaft out with my hammer, a flat nose metal punch, and a wood dowel to get the front bearing out if necessary. My desk vise, and off camera, my heat gun and protective glove, which I am going to put on right now and begin heating this up. So as I said, I just ran this engine just a few days ago, so there should still be some oil in the crankcase to help lubricate, get these parts out. Oil remaining from the glow fuel. I'm going to heat everything up here. Now we'll see if the bearing comes out on the crankshaft or if it does not. If it does not, I'll have to grab another tool, potentially, or maybe I'll be able to use my punch to get it out. So that should be warm enough. Get that cord off of me. Let's close this up a little bit here. I want this sitting flush. So now I'm just going to tap this crankshaft out here. And there's the crankshaft. So the bearing did not come out with it, but it looks like I've got a lip in there. So the next thing I'm going to do is get this front bearing out. And I've got full engagement here, so this should just take a couple of taps here. Look at that. The bearing came out and the dowel embedded right in the center of it. So I'm going to have to get that out here. I didn't anticipate that happening. I thought that was long enough or large enough not to do that. So here it looks like I've got an inner lip that I can get on and use this. So what I'm going to do, I need to get a smaller die here, one that's not going to hang up in my front of my crankshaft there. Almost out. And there. Our rear bearing is out. So that is all you have there. Let me see if I can extract this. There we go. So there you have it. We have our bearings removed from this OS FS-120 Surpass, and this bearing is really rough. Really rough feeling. Front one's not much better. So now what I can do is I can clean up my mat, clean up this crankcase and crankshaft, and get ready for the installation of the new bearings. Okay, so here I've got the crankcase and crankshaft all cleaned up. I've got my new set of bearings. I've got all the tools and equipment necessary to do this final stage of this, which is to install the bearings. So what I'm going to do first here is I like to use Lightning Lube's Road Power as my oil to reassemble these things. So I'll just put, there's a little bit in here, but I'll put another squirt of Road Power in here and get all of these parts lubricated up. Really nice. I'll have to do that with the bearings too when I get them out. As long as I got it here, I might as well do the inside of the cylinders where the sleeve is going to go to. Okay, so I was looking at the bearings that I pulled out of here, and I found it rather curious. The front bearing is pretty normal. You keep a seal in the front, and then you take a seal out, seal, shield, whatever the case may be, out. This rear bearing, I just can't hardly believe that this was a stock bearing, but I don't know for sure. It's got a metal shield on one side, and then it's got it removed on the other. This is not something I normally see. I normally see completely open bearings, and that's what I'm going to do here with these bearings from Boca. And what I'm going to do right now is say that the part number for the kit number for the bearings I'm going to be installing is ENK-021. So let me get these bearings out, and we'll get these bearings prepped for installation. So here's our front bearing. Both of these came with as ZZs, which means they're metal shielded bearings. So I'll be taking the shields out of both sides of this rear bearing and one side of the front bearing. So the way I do that is I use a small precision screwdriver or small screwdriver, and I get in here right where the inner race and the shield is and just kind of push in and lift up. And you can just, I'll try and do it so you can see it here. It's harder to do it from the ground or from elevated like that. And you just pull the shield out. So let's do it here on this rear bearing too. One's out, two's out. Now I'll lubricate, since I can stick my finger in there, I'll lubricate the inside of that one and the outside of both. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is install the rear bearing onto the crankshaft first. Okay. That bearing is installed and ready to go. Now we're going to do the front bearing, and this is where I'll heat up the crankcase. That should be enough to get that these bearings installed. So shield facing outward. Use my wood block and drive that bearing into place. Now I'll put this rear bearing in here. And it's seated and ready to be driven home. Let's make sure that we've got adequate clearance for that to be driven in there. I think that needs to go in just a little bit more. I can tell by the Woodruff key slot. There we go. That bearing is fully seated, and this engine is ready for reassembly.